Have you ever dreamed of having your work published in National Geographic? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips to help you on your journey to get your photographs published with the world's most famous photography publication. Hi, my name is Sean Gallagher, and for those new to my channel, I'm a professional photographer and filmmaker. For 8 years, I was represented by National Geographic's in-house photography agency, National Geographic Creative. And over the years, I've also had stories published with them, including photo essays on stories such as exotic pets in China, rising sea levels in Indonesia, and most recently, I've worked with National Geographic on a new documentary about China's road to carbon neutrality. So from all of these experiences, I want to share with you my top 5 tips to help you on your journey to getting your work also published with National Geographic, if that's one of your goals as a photographer. Okay, let's go on to tip number 1. When you look at the work of most National Geographic photographers, you'll see that they work on a variety of stories which are a collection of single images. Now, each of those single images will invariably be very good on their own, but the secret is when you start looking into putting single images together to tell stories. That's when you take your photography to a new level and you can start to think about the impact of your images and how they work together. So how do you tell stories with images? Well, it depends on what you like to photograph. For me as an environmental photojournalist, I might choose a topic like deforestation, for example, and I'm thinking in my mind, how can I make really strong individual images and how can I put them together to tell a story? So I'm thinking about the beginning of the story, the middle of it, and the end, and I'm thinking what kind of images can I make that will take my viewers on a clear journey through the story, so that none of my images repeat themselves. Each of those images is different and it's taking my viewer on a journey. And that's what a great photo essay is about. That's what great photographic storytelling is about. When your viewer looks at your images, from the first to the last, you've taken them on a visual journey through that story. You've taken them to a new place, both visually and on a level of understanding about the issue that you're covering. A National Geographic photo editor once told me, make images of what it feels like, not just what it looks like. Essentially, you want to make your viewer feel something when they look at your image. You're trying to, through the image, convey emotion, try to convey feeling. You're trying to make your viewer feel something. That's one of the biggest goals for us as photographers. Now, one of the best ways that you can do this is when you're next out taking photographs, is to try to capture emotions. When you're walking around, looking at people, looking at how people are interacting with one another, you'll see that emotions are expressed all the time in many different ways. It might be something as simple as a smile, 2 friends laughing with each other, a mother hugging a child. Those tiny moments in life, if you're able to capture them, capture that feeling, capture that emotion, that will come through in your photographs. Tip number 3 is to find your niche. There are thousands of photographers around the world who all aspire to be professional photographers and work for publications like National Geographic. So how are you going to stand out? For me, my niche is working on environmental issues in Asia. I live here in Beijing and I travel around China and also other countries in Asia, but I just specifically photograph environmental issues, mainly surrounding the climate crisis. So you have to ask yourself, number 1, what do you love to photograph? What stories do you love to tell? Once you've done that, then you can start to think about where in the world that you photograph and bring that into your identity as a photographer. Then the final thing you want to think about in terms of determining your niche is thinking about the style of your photography. Are you a color photographer, a black and white photographer? Do you shoot in 35mm format or do you shoot in square format? or a combination of these? Is there something really unique in the way that you take images from a stylistic point of view that makes you stand out? All of this will play into building your identity as a photographer and also help you stand out when you're trying to get the attention of editors at publications like National Geographic. Tip number 4 is to tell stories that matter. Now, what do I mean by a story that quote unquote matters? Well, for me, I work on stories surrounding the climate crisis, which is, as we all know, this really huge, global, important story. But when I make my stories, I actually focus my attention on individuals, on families, on communities. So I'm telling local stories about local people and connecting them to this big global issue which is affecting us all. Now, you don't need to work on huge global issues, but you need to think about why your story matters, whether you're covering an environmental issue, a health issue, something to do with nature, for example. You need to connect it to an issue in our world that people need to know about or people need to pay attention to. Look locally and think about how your stories connect to bigger issues on a regional, national, and international level. And that's what editors are really interested in seeing. And for publications like National Geographic, those are the kind of stories that they really want to tell. Once you have a strong body of work or a strong story, then you need to get people to see it. Specifically, you want people who are connected, editors, for example, who you want to get your work in front of. So how do you do that? Well, one of the best ways is to try to get yourself to industry events, for example. Photography festivals are a great place to go and meet not just photo editors, but other photographers. If you build up a community of contacts within the industry, it increases your chances of people knowing someone else who can perhaps introduce you to a photo editor at one of these events, for an example. If you are a student or young learner, National Geographic runs an internship program. This can be a great way for you to actually get your foot in the door. If you're further along in your career, National Geographic run opportunities through their grants program, which will fund projects that they are interested in working with you on. And actually, much of the work produced from these projects is considered by editors for publication. If you're interested in either of those, the internships or the photography grants, I'll provide a link in the description so that you can go and have a look and check those out. In summary, there's no definite path to working with a publication like National Geographic. You may come from a photography background, you may come from scientific or an adventurer background. Actually, everybody I know who works with National Geographic has come to them through a very different path. Try to keep producing stories that you really care about, that you think that matter, and try to keep making those connections with the publication. And you never know where it may lead and when your opportunity may arise. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. And if you've got any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. See you in my next video.